Hey there Minecrafters, and welcome to episode 1 of my minecart tutorial, wherein I go over the basics of crafting, minecart behavior, and rail behavior. In later episodes I'm going to be going over progressively more complicated things, including powered rails, redstone circuits, gravity-powered tracks, minecart stations, banks, mechanical logic gates, and something shiny and new that I just invented earlier today. Now let's get started. In order to craft a minecart, you make a simple lowercase u with iron ingots. You can then put that back into the crafting table and put a chest over top of it to make a storage minecart. This can hold the same number of items as a single chest. You can also put it in there with a furnace over top of it to make a powered minecart. Powered minecarts are pretty much useless, and this is the only time you're ever going to see me talking about them. In order to make a normal rail, you put 3 iron ingots on the left, 3 iron ingots on the right, and a stick in the center. This makes 16 rails. In order to make a powered rail, you do the same thing, but with gold ingots and a piece of redstone dust below the stick. That makes 6 powered rails. In order to make a detector rail, you go back to iron ingots, you replace the stick with a stone pressure plate, and again you put a piece of redstone dust. Now these only make 6 instead of 16, but it doesn't matter because you don't need very many of these in comparison to how many regular rails that you need. Moving on. You can't place a minecart on normal ground. You have to place it on some sort of track. And minecarts obey basic momentum. You place them on solid, normal, flat ground. They don't go anywhere. Give them a push and they move. Put them on a slant. They fall and move forward. But as you can see, it doesn't go very far. That's another way the momentum comes into play. If you get in, the cart will have more mass and therefore will gather more momentum. And as you can see, it's going further. It's not very dramatic right now, but when we get into more complicated systems with higher speed, it'll become pretty important. You gain momentum going downhill, lose momentum going on a flat stretch, and lose even more going uphill. That's all pretty basic, probably obvious to anybody who knows how gravity works, but I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. When going around a curve like this, if you have blocks set very close, the minecart will clip into the blocks, and that will rob it of some momentum. As a rule, that's a bad thing, so you want to make sure to have at least one block of horizontal and vertical clearance for your minecarts. Behavior at intersections is a little bit more complicated. The most important thing that it tries to do is stay on the same track that it's on. If that's not possible, for instance at this track, it'll simply jump off. And when it jumps off, it'll try to move forward. Now again, that might not even be possible. And when that's not possible, something called the southwest rule comes into play. For some reason, many objects in Minecraft tend to prefer the south and the west. I'm not sure why that is, but it's true for a lot of things. How that comes into play here is that when a minecart gets to an intersection where it has to jump a track and it can't stay on its own track, or it can't stay going forward, it will prefer to go either south or west. It doesn't matter which direction I put this in from, it'll attempt to go west. At this one, faces north and south, it'll attempt to go south. Another note on block clipping: if you set up something like this and put a block above it, this minecart will actually clip straight through the block. That robs it of a lot of momentum, and it'll actually be kind of useful later on. A minecart will jump off of its own rail and fall down onto a lower rail. This behaves exactly the same way as minecart jumping on a normal intersection. It'll attempt to go forward. If that's not possible, it'll obey the southwest rule. There are also rules for behavior of rails. When a rail is placed, it'll attempt to make a connection between all adjacent rails. However, as you've probably guessed by now, that's not always going to be impossible, or not always going to be possible. For instance, in this situation, you can see several different ways that this can connect. Rails prefer to form curves over straight lines. If you give it an option between a curve and a straight line, it will make a curve. However, in this situation, you can see many different types of curve that it can make. And in this situation, the southwest rule comes into play again. If given an option like this, the rail will attempt to make a curve between the south and west adjacent track. If only the south or the west is available, it'll attempt to make a curve with that track. It will only form a curve between the north and east adjacent tracks if that is the only available option. It's just like forming a straight line. It has to be the only thing that that rail can do at the time. Now, as you can see, obviously, rails can go up inclines. Just like on flat land, they will automatically connect, but they can only go up one block at a time. Obviously, it can't go up two at a time. Something else important to notice is that a rail can be three different types. It can be straight, curved, or slanted. It cannot be curved and slanted. What happens if you try to make it curved and slanted is this. It just sort of curves into a block and doesn't do anything useful. You want to avoid that. And that's about it for today. Thank you for watching, and tune in next time when I go over powered rails, detector rails, and some of the basic redstone logic gates that you're going to be using when making more complicated things.